Hi, baby. Um, Much to say. I'm sorry that I wasn't here all week. I was up at my parents' cottage doing work up there, and there is normally cell service. But a couple weeks ago, there was an ice storm up there, and it pulled the one and only tower down, and they haven't fixed it yet. So I was actually, it sucked. I hate being up there alone, especially at night, because quite honestly, I get scared. It's like, I look really tired, don't I? I look awful. I don't sleep very well these days, but anyway, it's really dark and like pitch black, of course, and there's no noise, and there's nothing really for me to put on to make noise. Well, there is. I mean, there's the radio, but I'm used to like having internet TV on and stuff. But I kind of adapted to that. But anyway, it just sucked. I hated it. It was scared. I didn't want to be there. And that's all. I wish that you were there. I have lots of stories to tell you, though. I drove our car up there. So, do you know how I finally kind of tipped the whole car scale in my favor? So, I guess, what was it, like, just before I was going up to the cottage, I started to give the Porsche tune-up again, because I had done it, like, what was it, a year and a half ago, maybe, and I figured it, it needed again. Well, for sure it needed a new battery, because the battery just wouldn't hold a charge anymore. So I went out and bought a new battery, and batteries are fucking expensive, man. Especially for a car like that. It's like, I don't know why they have to make them so fancy. It's not just a battery like that you normally have in a car. It's also got like this sensor thing that tells you if the electrolyte level is where it should be, which is just ridiculous. Because if you buy a battery, or if you have a battery in a car like that, it's generally going to last the life of the car, especially when you live here in Ontario, because we salt our roads in the winter, and that means that every car rusts. Like within 5 years, the rust has pretty much wiped out the car if you drive it all the time and in the winter. So I guess battery has to be adapted to all peoples and all climates. Anyway, never mind. Scratch what I was saying. Anyways, tuning up the car, new battery, so I had done a lot of work on it before, right? I think I told you about all that. Like I had to put a new alternator. I had to rebuild the timing system. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I had to do. It was like, what was the total that I put into it? Over $12,000 that I had put into it, refurbishing that car myself. Anyway, so I figured like a year and a half later, it hasn't been driven much. I figured that it would be okay. I mean, it's going to need oil change, and I hate that there are no menthols here anymore. I hate it. I can't wait to be in menthol land with you, because these suck now. They just taste like shit, compared to a menthol. Anyway, so I figured that, generally it's going to be okay. Oil change, and maybe brakes tuned up, because they would get, like, they seize, when they're sitting there for too long. Stuff like that. Nothing major. Air in the tires, So anyway, I get kind of all the basics done, and I'm ready to... actually, I was going to just run it down to get air in the tires, yeah? And so the car hasn't been driven in over a year, okay? And so, it's always so frustrating, right? Because I put all that money into it. I refurbished it. It was dying, like, in front of him for years. And he would just continue, like, piling garbage on the top of it. I've got pictures I'll show you, but there was literally 5 feet of garbage on top of that car in the garage, when I first saw it. Like he couldn't put his other car in the garage because this car was the garbage pile car. Anyway, so it was basically worthless. Like I took it to not a dealer, but like a mechanic guy that I know in town here, and asked him to give me a honest evaluation of what he thought the car could sell for now. Of course, he didn't. He had to come and see it in the garage because I couldn't drive it then. Like it wasn't ready to be driven. And he said, "Well, you might get $5,000 for it, maybe, but really, it's kind of like scrap at this point." So anyway, so it was just worthless. It was a piece of junk with garbage piling on it in his garage. And so I brought it back to life. And after I told you this before, I know, but it's part of the story, I guess. I'm also very tired and very missing you, and so I'm going to be rambling a lot. And so, what was I saying? So, yeah, so it was like worth nothing. I put, it was just over $12,000 into it. And then brought Terry back, or I drove it over to his shop, and he said, well, now it's, it's like basically back to the Blue Book value, which is 40 grand, I think. So I'm not trying to pat myself in the back or anything. I'm just saying that, like, I mean, even though it wasn't my car, I just could not take it. I couldn't handle this, this fine automotive machine, just being laid to waste for no good reason. And I don't know. I'm a healer by nature, so you know that. So I had to heal the car, so I did. And anyway, blah, 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 blah. So flash forward. So now it's a year and a half later, and I want to tune it up again because I want to take control of it, right? And so I do all those things. So now I'm taking it down to put air in the tires, right, just to top them up. And oh my God, like there's all this knocking noises and stuff. Like it just sounded like crap, and it wouldn't accelerate properly. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? There's no way that it's just deteriorated, from where I had it a year and a half ago. I mean, it hasn't been driven; it's just been sitting there. And so, how could it possibly just break down, right? Like the turbo wasn't pulling, and it seemed like the timing was off. It was like it was embarrassing to drive the 400 meters down to get the air because it was just ridiculous. Anyway, so maybe I get down there, right, and I'm like, well, I got to take a look at this. I'm just at a gas station where they've got one of those pay $1.50 and put air in your tires, right? So it wasn't like a garage or anything, but I didn't care. I had to take a look at and see what was going on. And I don't know if you know, but in our new car, the trunk is in the front. It's a bonnet, and the engine is in the back. And the engine is actually pretty hard to get to because, like, I'll show you later, but like in some pictures and stuff. But the way the back of the Porsche is, like, it slopes down or curves down quite a bit, right? And then so the lid to the engine compartment, there's not a lot of area that it can open up. God, I sound like I'm retarded. I get when I'm tired. But anyway, it's difficult to work on that engine through the standard engine compartment when it's the best case scenario. So anyway, I open it up, and I'm out there in the middle of this gas station. And it's a busy gas station, like it's right in the middle of Toronto. So there's just always people coming in, leaving, and there's actually usually a line for the air hose thingy. There wasn't when I got there, but I was there for maybe 2 minutes, and suddenly there was another car behind me waiting for me to go so he could put the air. But anyway, so I went over to him and I said, hey, I'm just going to be another 5 minutes because I needed to take a look at what's going on with my engine, so if you don't mind. And he said, oh, no problem. So he just walked in and got a coffee or something, which was which I was grateful for because I opened up the compartment to the engine. Honey, it's fucking stuffed full of garbage. He was, I don't know why. Like, I mean, I know that he has to collect garbage. It's like an obsessive compulsive thing that he has. He's got to collect it, right? Or keep it. But fuck me running, why do you have to stuff it into the engine of the Porsche? Like, what the fuck is with that? Why? Why would you ever do that? Especially when you know that I put all my time and effort and money into rebuilding that fucking engine. Honey, I've got pictures of it. There was, when I had finished pulling it all out, all the garbage, there was a pile that was 2 feet high of like newspapers that were shredded because they had been like gone through the turbo system, and there were pieces of gum that he had collected off the ground. There were pieces of the toilet paper that he uses and then has to keep, which is fucking disgusting. And that was in our engine, so that sucks. But baby, it was like packed everywhere. I'm surprised the motor even turned over and ran. And I was like, well, fuck, I don't know what am I supposed to do now? Because like I'm not going to drive this thing. I'm not going to turn the engine on again. Like it could blow up, or there'd at least be a fire, right? I'm surprised there wasn't a fire. It was surreal to see that, and I thanked God that the guy who was right behind me went in to get a coffee. Because what would he think, right? If I opened up I just got to take a look at my engine because it doesn't sound quite right. So if you don't mind, just give me 5 minutes or so. And imagine if he's standing there and I open it up and it's just all this garbage that like just starts piling out of it. I would have been mortified. I probably would have just run away. Anyway, so what I do, there was, they have those industrial vacuum things usually with the air hose jobby. So I spent, it took me at least 2 hours. And about $40 in the vacuum fees to get it mostly cleaned out. It still wasn't all cleaned out. Like I had to disassemble parts of it to get way back there. There were chicken bones in there. Oh my God, it was bizarre. So I after that, I approached him and I said, Peter, do you want to tell me why exactly you decided to stuff like a metric ton worth of garbage into the engine of the Porsche that I rebuilt? And at first he denied it. And so I took him down there and I said, Peter, I know you did it because these are the markings of your hoarding, your toilet paper and your gum and your fucking scraps of paper off the street and all that other shit. So I know that you did it. And I had brought this car back to life, and now I got to do it all over again. Anyway, so I used that as leverage to get him to give it to us. So there you go, and it's running well now. There's really not much wrong with it. I'm trying to think now. There's a bit of a dent on the passenger side front, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is, but because it's silver, it's actually kind of don't really notice it that much. What else? You're gonna look hot driving it. I love driving it, like up around the cottage where the roads are open and there's nobody for miles. It's tremendously fun and I love it, but I still just hate city driving. I can't stand it. So it's funny when I was at the cottage. So I would go there's this little town called Kearney, that's like, what is it? It's just the other side of the lake from the cottage. So the other reason that it's scary up there is because both my grandparents are buried there, and I don't know, it just creeps me out. Like right in the front yard of the front is the lake side, right? And so when you come out the cottage and you're going down to the lake, it's like you have to walk right into the grave marker of my grandmother. And her name was Elsie Winifred Stedwell. And she was a cool lady. But I don't much like her, her corpse 6 feet under when I'm up there alone. It kind of creeps me out. And actually, my grandpa was burned, and his ashes went in the lake, so that's not so bad. But decomposing bodies when you're alone in a place like that, where somebody might come out of the woods with a hatchet and chop you up. I don't like it much. I'm really a pussy when it comes to that kind of thing. Like, I've always been scared of the dark, and scared of being alone, and scared of being alone in the dark, and that was like the worst. And then it's like there's spiders everywhere, and the place makes noises that I'm not used to, right? Because I'm not there 24/7, 365, and it fucking sucked. I hated it. Like, I don't know how I got through it, actually, but anyway, each morning I would go into Kearney. You should look it up on Google Maps. If you look up Kearney, Ontario, Kearny, and then just to the east of Kearney, you'll find a lake called Sand Lake, and so Kearney is kind of like right on the western tip, I guess. Western tip of Sand Lake, southwestern tip, and our cottage is on the southeastern tip, or whatever. It's kind of like kitty corner, if lakes have kitty corners, to Kearney. So look up Kearney, and then you'll see Sand Lake, and then you can actually see our cottage from Google Maps. I haven't looked, but I know you can. I could look now, but I'm not going to. And so, but anyway, look, okay, because Kearney is where I went each morning, because the first morning I was there, I needed to get like some joint sealant for the pump fix that I was doing, and there's like a little I don't know, what do you call it, like a spare parts kind of Mr. Fix-It-All kind of shop there in Kearney. But the guy who runs it, he's got to be 85, and his name is Sam, and he's a funny guy. And anyway, and I think he's lonely because Kearney only has like 500 people, and probably even that is averaged out over the whole year. So there's, in the summer months, there would be, maybe there's like 1,000, and then in the winter and like early spring months, there's probably just like 200 people or something. So he's lonely, and he's alone. His wife died a long time ago, and anyway, so I indulged him, and because when I was buying the sealant, he asked if I wanted to have a cup of coffee, so I did, and then I sat down and I spent like an hour with him talking. I just couldn't say no, right? Like, how do you say no to a guy like that? I mean, but I'm glad I did, because it was, it's an experience, right? Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of stories I want to tell you about him, but one of the funniest ones is that he's talking about Earl, right? All the time, Earl this and Earl that, and Earl doesn't like Donald Trump, and Earl's a big fan of, what the hell is the show? The Amazing Race. Is that a Canadian thing, or is it a U.S. thing? I don't know. I think there's both. Amazing Race and Canadian Amazing Race or something. But anyway, Amazing Race. Earl loves Amazing Race. And Earl loves tangerines. And it was just so random, and like, and I mean, our conversations were always interspersed with things about Earl. So anyway, we're talking away about, oh shoot, what were we talking about? Because it kind of matters, but I'm not going to be able to remember now. Too tired. We're talking about something. Shit. And I think he brought up Earl. Anyway, so I'm just kind of sitting there listening to him, and I wanted to tell you what it was. It'll come to me, but I'm not going to sit here on the video and just think about it. Anyway, so we're talking, and suddenly there's a tortoise that comes walking out of a room, right? And he's like about this big probably, and and he's just kind of plodding along. He's kind of got a cute little head, he's just kind of plodding along, and And I was kind of startled, right? Because you don't see that every day. Like maybe you see a cat or a dog, but you don't see a tortoise come cruising out of the room just like he owns the place. And so I kind of jumped a little bit because, it was, I didn't recognize it at first. It startled me. And I said, "Oh, you've got a tortoise. I didn't know." And he said, "No, that's Earl." He was Earl. All these things he's talking about. That's the tortoise. And Earl loves tangerines. And actually, he doesn't so much love tangerines. He loves the peels. And I just started laughing so hard I couldn't stop. And I kind of felt like I might have been offending him. He's probably got a little dementia. But I guess Earl's his best friend. And Earl doesn't like Donald Trump, but loves The Amazing Race. So that was funny. And so I had coffee with him. I spent like at least an hour with him every morning. I think you'd find him funny. I hope one day we go there and you can meet Sam and Earl. And we'll definitely go to the cottage, but I just hope that he hasn't died by the time we get there, because he is getting up there. 85, he could be dead now. I don't like to check obituaries, but you never know. That's pretty, what's the word? Morose. I'm going to stop that line of thought now. I was going to sing you a song. I am going to sing you a song, but I don't know how long this thing is already, this video. So I'm going to break here and then come back with some more talk and songs. And this is the other thing I'm a pussy about. Like when I come back, right, I wasn't expecting to be totally out of reach. Like we used to have a party line up there, like landline party line, but of course that got taken out a long time ago because cell phones worked up there. But now I was like totally isolated because it's a small community, Sand Lake community and Kearney, and so they only have literally like one tower that services all of the district, and it got. Sam was the one who told me it got the ice storm. I guess it crippled it. It fell over or something. I don't know, and they haven't come to repair it yet. In Canada. There's I think it's the same in the U.S. The way they do it. There's just one or two companies that own all the cell towers, and then they lease them out to the mobile carriers. But the mobile carriers don't own them, and generally don't do the repairs. It's the actual company that owns those towers, and so they staff up for densely populated areas when there are outages there. They don't staff up for Kearney, Ontario population 4. So that sucked. So anyway, my point is this: so I come back after being up there for 5 days, and got, I don't know, at least a dozen messages came in from you, and it just it makes me panic, and I get so scared, and I can't read them. I haven't read a single one yet. I can't. It's like I'm worried that I just can't. It's such a terrible attribute that I have, this thing, but I know it'll be different. Like, you can help me with it when it happens to me, because it happens with other things too. We'll talk about that later, but it's really bad when it comes to you and your texts, and I'm just petrified to read them. So anyway, I'm making this video, and then I'm going to call you later. It's 1 p.m. here right now, and I'm really tired. I just want to close my eyes for a bit, and then I'm going to call you. I want to call you this evening, probably around maybe 7 my time, and it'll be 4 your time. And so hopefully you've seen this already, and then you can know that anyway, I'm just telling you that I love you, and I miss you, and okay, now I have to stop because I'm going to start crying. Okay, I love you, baby. Okay, bye.